This part may or may not be included in the video. I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
I got this from my buddy Pyrocynical. He good YouTuber. He has.
I heard because like of him.
So this video may be partially different. That definitely did not go through well. So this video may be partially different.
So.
One more time. So this video may be partially different.
How so?
Kinda different. It's time for inconsistent content.
Ever since I got the Pixel 6, I've gotten more storage and wanted to play more games. Yeah, you can tell why I refuse to play games, and I already play many of these games on my iPad and on my Pixel 3a, so why not here? I also started a little Move the Pixel 6 program where I moved many of the games that I played to the Pixel 6. Mostly Japanese games, which is why almost all of them you probably have never heard of. Have you played Evil Woman Executive, Pedigree New Moon? You probably haven't because you'd cry if you did. But I see myself being interested in many of these games either because of how popular they are or how they're attached to some properties. Most of these games change up a few things to make them more mobile friendly or make them enjoyable for free-to-play audiences, with unsurprisingly many of these mobile games not being made by the same devs some of the time. Higurashi Mei was mostly developed by D-Techno, despite the 7th expansion owning the license. So basically, 7th expansion gave Passione's version of Higurashi the gacha game treatment. Higurashi was an already well-known series, but I've only really played Mei because of how I liked the Passione art style. Passione made Gao and Saotsu, the two new Higurashi seasons based off of the original Higurashi from 2006, and that's based off of the games by 7th expansion starting in 2002, and in 2020 it was announced that Higurashi When They Cry New would be getting a mobile game by D-Techno. Quite literally, it's D-Techno taking a game that got an anime, jumping back from the anime to the game. It's like Street Fighter the movie, the game levels of confusing. And much like with Mei, there are several other games based off of anime series. I looked at the Play Store, Q-App, and DMM Games looking for some interesting games, and the majority of them aren't too bad.
Oh, let me ask you to talk about Bang Tree.
Are you kidding me?
Let me guess, you're going to be talking about Bang Tree.
No, at least I didn't plan it.
To make a colorful stage?
I've never even heard of it.
Cookie Run Kingdom. Wait, no. What about Bungo Tales?
First I'm speaking about
The Thunderbolt by HTC.
What a bummer.
Scorching.
Back again, I'm still a beast.
Assault Lily Last Bullet is pretty cool. I love the user interface. It reminds me of something like the Honor at Magic High School with how the interface feels, with a futuristic looking layout. And the gameplay is fun and engaging, having a few idle elements, but having special attacks, usable with a form of energy. Plus, the use of live 2D elements, which is seen even in the animations, also earns the game extra points for me. It feels like the creators actually cared and wanted to make an aesthetically pleasing game.
You've played bad games before? That's a first.
If this is what the majority of this video is, this will genuinely be a joke.
My only gripe with a game like this, without a doubt, is the inconsistencies between the scenes from the anime and the game's own models. Basically, Last Bullet uses scenes from the anime Assault Lily Bouquet, the 2020 anime that quite literally came out a month before this game did, by Shaft. During some moments in the game, like Gacha and throughout the menus, the game features some scenes which honestly feel out of place in comparison to a game that has Millium look like this, but I really don't hate it. I think it was more of an aesthetic choice and, once again, convenient timing. But I'm enjoying my game so far. It's kind of a shame they haven't came out in America yet, but I still love the effort put behind it. Heck, even the gacha system is actually interesting, and I'm not usually a big fan of gacha systems in games. While definitely colorful, probably on purpose, it's fun and adds more scenes from the anime again. I guess it's creative, but Assault Lily Last Bullet is actually a good example of how to make a fun gacha game. Your interface is nice, the gameplay is fun, and the story's engaging.
So what you're saying is you like the game.
What the hell was I talking about for the past few minutes that convinced you otherwise?
Stop playing Genshin Impact! What were you saying?
Can you please pay attention?
Another game that I also think is pretty cool, albeit not as much as Last Bullet, is World Witches United Front.
It's Strike Witches.
It's actually World Witches.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
Not.
It is!
Fine, let's just say you're right. Why the hell did Cave add World Witches on the cover?
I don't know why they do that, but ignore that shit. It's fucking Strike Witches.
Okay, I get it. It's Strike Witches. Sort of.
Based off of the Strike Witches / World Witches series, the game features many characters from the 101st to 109th. I mean, it says World Witches. What the heck were you expecting? World Witches is a lot more active than other mobile games. Many that I played feature auto functionality, Last Bullet included, but I like playing this game even though there is an auto button. The game is played from a top-down perspective, and it wasn't until recently where the game was updated to be played from a different camera angle. The game, unlike other games that I played, uses 3D rendered characters rather than 2D characters, and makes sense for what the game is. As per Strike Witch's tradition, the combat consists of fighting against the Nuroi. The Nuroi strategically and in formation fly about in lines attacking your trio, also in formation. Despite consisting of 3 people, if you die or the timer expires, the level is over, unless you succumb to your point and buy extra time. Usually, after the combat levels, there is another part of the story, also using 3D characters, which means some of the expressions are super comical. The game also offers multiplayer. I haven't played online, heck, I haven't played any other mode except solo play formation. But there are events that do happen here and there. To unlock these, you have to play throughout the game's story or playing through challenges. The gacha system also isn't too bad and changes depending on how good the drop is.
私が何とかします
Yoshika looks dumb.
Quiet or she'll hit me again.
Wait, why just you? What's you even?
Yes, Mom, this is here for still
Excuses.
There are a few stills that show up, but they don't show up as much as you think they did. Much like with choices, and when I say choices, I mean...
This is a medical disorder.
Because the majority of the choices in the game quite literally have no impact on the story, nor are they diverse. Many of them lead to the same results, but with different reactions on characters. There's also a mode where you can interact and get closer with specific characters. The interactions don't change the character's feelings toward you outside of this mode, but inside the mode, you have tons of options. Giving a character something through gifts, playing dress up, changing the character, and staying them stare in the background like a creepy jackass. That happens a lot. And a specific witch story, which has its own category, and you can view them from there. The only character I've gotten closer with was Yoshika. I tried Edeflo Rusmin, but...
Do you think it's going well at all?
Why not?
Overall, there are a ton of fun features outside of the combat mode, and it's probably the most played international mobile game for me. And I had a fun time playing it. It's actually sort of encouraged me to get into the Strike Witches series a little bit more, which led me to only watch Take Off. I'm making so much
Progress.
Alright, let's start ranking these. Assault Lily Last Bullet is a great game with an interesting story and an overall great interface. I'm ranking United Front above it. I see myself playing United Front more than Last Bullet, especially when I started using my Pixel 6 to play more games. United Front is a game I just see myself getting into more because I honestly don't know. But if I had to say something, I'm going to say experience for now. I only just started getting into Last Bullet, and I can't see myself playing the game as avidly or as naturally as I would with World Witches. I enjoy Last Bullet, but not as much as United Front. Also, United Front has ridiculous Yoshika faces, and that automatically makes it better. Speaking of 3D characters, there's also the Quintessential Quintuplets game.
But wait, don't you mean the visual novel on the Switch?
Yeah, that's no. I'm referring to the unneedingly long name, the Quintessential Quintuplets. The quintuplets can't divide the puzzle into 5 equal parts. Not to be confused with the PS4, Switch, and later PC release visual novel, the Quintessential Quintuplets Summer Memories also come in 5, which wasn't received fairly well. Side note, I have to say this, there's a reason as to why Summer Memories also come in 5. It didn't use character models from the Quintessential Quintuplets first season. The models are actually identical to the second season, or FF, the 2021 anime that aired 2 months before this game did. The mobile game has nothing to do with the second season, instead of focusing on the first season, and even using multiple scenes from the anime, and the story is literally the exact same, with barely any difference. Is it weird for me to say I'm a bit mixed on this game?
You actually played a bad game? Where have I seen that before? Next, you're gonna tell me you hate Satoko.
Irony.
It's not that I hate it, it's just that I don't like how the devs, G Holdings, who are listed as Inish on QApp, uses 3D models instead of 2D models for the characters. And because of that, the characters don't look normal nor natural. Their faces and movements feel off, especially shocking when I look at characters like Yotsuba, and other people's are like big, unneedingly big in comparison to the visual novel version of Yotsuba. I prefer character models from the 2021 game because I think 2D just fits this game more. The visual novel aspect is okay, not bad, but I feel like there's a whole lot that feels off. You know how I said United Front uses 2D drawn parts in the game here and there? Basically, this is that, but it's from an anime, and they're used so much in the game. I'm just not a big fan of having moments like that in this game. I feel like I should just watch the anime at that point, if you're featuring so many scenes from it. And it's not like the decisions make any big difference, they both divert into relatively the same answer. For example, at the start of the game, Yotsuba pops in front of you, the protagonist, and asks if you dropped a perfect score test or a failing grade test. When I initially did this, I definitely picked up the failing grade test, because Yotsuba then said, and the protagonist corrects himself by saying the perfect score was his test. Regardless of which test you chose, they both divert into the same answer. Or how about that one time where Nino gives the protagonist, you can choose no, but then your character feels bad for picking that answer and feels guilty as Nino looks away in the most pathetic way possible, and regardless of whether you choose yes or no, the main character drinks it anyway. It just feels so pointless to me. I know why they do something like this, because if you did choose the opposite answer, it'd break away from the story, but I don't even know why you'd have decisions to choose in the first place at that point. As for gameplay, it's just a puzzle game using elements from Pop Fever games, where you select a scene colored item to get a combo as opposed to using the Bejeweled format of sliding one colored item and making a combo out of it.
No, seriously, why is this game so goddamn addicting?
It's not bad, and the challenges are actually pretty exciting. If you do get stuck, there is an option that allows you to take one piece off the board. It uses Utsuki's face as an option. There are also other options on the right based off of characters in the game. When an option is ready, you select it, and then a character can make different actions happen on the board. There are two different forms of puzzle, either a time mode where you have to complete challenges in a certain amount of time, or a move counter, which is what I call it, where you have a certain amount of moves and must complete the challenges within the amount of moves. The lowest rating that you can get for both is a D, and regardless of whether you've completed the challenges or not, you must get at least a D to complete the stage. When you do complete a stage, any remaining moves or seconds are randomly thrown on the board to boost the score. Once again, it's pretty simplistic and it's easy to get hooked on, which in a way is the reason as to why I enjoyed it. Overall, the Quintessential Quintuplets can't divide the puzzle into 5 equal parts is okay, but I don't see a reason as to why the visual novel aspect feels so poorly made to me. I much prefer playing through the puzzles alone rather than reading the story, but other than that, it's not bad. It sits quietly under Assault Lily. This wasn't the only game Inish made. Inish also made the Rent-A-Girlfriend mobile game, and the Attack on Titan mobile game. I haven't played it, but it uses 3D characters, but at least it looks slightly better than the Quintuplets. But what if we flipped the idea? What if we took a game with a great story but mediocre gameplay? Well, you get Higurashi Mei. Mei came out a month before the first episode of Higurashi Gao did. Was that planned? I don't think that was planned. Made by D-Techno, the game, unlike other games in this series, uses Passioni's art style from Gao and Satsu instead of using an art style from previous Higurashi games. Mei creates its own story rather than borrowing from other Higurashi games as well, with some original characters made specifically for Mei, most notably Kazuo Kimiyoshi, who serves as not just the main character in Mei, but the player's character. I mention that largely because the game refers to Kazuo in the first person rather than third. The adventure mode is broken into 3 parts. The first part has 8 chapters to it, with the other 2 being broken into 2 more bonus modes, which consist of alternative versions of parts 2 and 3. The story doesn't have a lot of decision making, mostly consisting of just story, but that's fine. And plus, the story is exciting to read. Since this is a Higurashi game, you have the usual characters, Satoko, Rina, Hanyu, Rika, but also additional characters new to Higurashi like Kazuho, Nao, and Miyuki, who actually plays as a teenager in the story rather than an adult or child like they did in Higurashi games. In order to get additional story scenes, you also have to play through the game's adventure mode, which is a good trade-off. So, that story is really well balanced, and I love the way the story is treated. The part that gets me is how the game actually has a genuine ending for it. Rather than letting the story keep going on and on and on in an endless campaign, which is something I see many of these games do, the game has an actual ending that is achievable. Not like there's anything wrong with endless stories. I mean, One Piece does that weekly, but I feel like there's only so much that a story can have before it becomes repetitive or tiring. I mean, take a look at Mo Ninja Girls. Yes, because a visual novel that consists of 90% story needs to have like 20 chapters to it. And there's plenty to do throughout the game beyond the campaign, so it's not like I move on once the campaign was done. With other side stories, that could be pretty cool. Now the gameplay itself?
That's the gameplay.
Do you like doing nothing? Because that's what the majority of the gameplay entails, consisting of waiting idly for your group of characters plus a random person's player, and tapping strike buttons when their character's face says okay. The characters attack on their own, and apart from the super moves, that's literally what the gameplay consists of.
Wait, but isn't that literally what Salt Lily Blast Bullet does?
Yes,
Firstly, it's Last Bullet, and secondly, yes, but at least with Last Bullet, the game had engaging visuals, and there were button presses. Far more button presses than I would expect. In some cases, there's even an auto button which literally exists to automatically play the game for you, even though the game already plays itself. Plus, the visuals and the characters fighting animations literally just look like a redive skin to me, like Konosuba or Bow Fury. Yes, there is a Bow Fury game, and no, I don't even think it came out the same year the anime did. I should do more research before I say something. But that just makes the Bow Fury game even more pointless in my opinion. I just feel like Mei, gameplay-wise, isn't as engaging as Last Bullet when it comes to idle gameplay. When it comes to the story, it's great, but when we get down to gameplay, it kinda shows its problems. Plus, they are keeping up to date with the Higurashi series, even including models of teenage versions of both Satoko and Rika, both of which are featured in Higurashi Gao and Saotsu, the first and second season that aired in 2020 and 2021 respectively. I just really want a game that has a fun story, but also some really fun gameplay, like Fate Grand Order. It has an interesting story, with choices that can alter what happens in it, and with RPG gameplay that is so simple and fun to get into. This game is sitting in between Last Bullet and World Witches. It's okay, but I do have to knock a few points for not paying attention to gameplay. It's just that I want them to focus on how a series could be converted into mobile in a way that fits it, and show how good a series could be from the conversion. Without that, you get SHUT THE FUCK UP! United Front proved this to me, being a top-down shooter based off of World Witches, or Fezalai being a rhythm game based off of Show by Rock. In my opinion, the way the game fits its universe is just as important to me as the game itself. Which is why taking Reincarnated as a slime and turning it into a Clash of Clans game is fucking funny. Oh, and how about this? Why not take Peach Boy Riverside, add a touch of Mobile Strike, and we get what the buddy has? G123 is one of those companies you should quite literally walk away from as fast as you can. Because they're just bad. If the term G123 rings a bell for you, you probably have heard of them before. G123 is a company that advertises themselves on sites like Pixiv, and they've shown up under my Google Discover as advertisements. Now, the thing about their advertisements is that they never try to make it clear that they're behind the ads. Some of these ads don't even show the name of the games they're promoting, just some random anime characters from a series, some copyright mumbo jumbo, and that's it. Sometimes they have advertisements that show the logo of the game, but never mention that G123 are the ones behind it. For instance, we're tracing back to that Queen's Blade advertisement on Google Discover. If you look at the bottom, G123 is not mentioned, but rather Queen's Blade. Also, the ads that they have feature some of the most generic lines for any game.
Here it is again in slow motion.
Didn't even come up with a point for that sentence! So, you may be wondering, what is a G123 game? How bad is it really? Well, they take a few series they have the license to and just put out poorly made browser games about them. Before we get into one, I need you to remember this line according to the Twitter page.
Here it is again in slow motion.
I want you to remember the line because I don't think playing Spirit Chronicles and Undertale will bring up the term high quality at all. Firstly, a big problem, they formatted these games for mobile, nowhere else. So if you were to play this game on a computer, per se, all the contents will be squished like they are right now to fit a mobile display. But anyway, let's try the game. Spirit Chronicles and Undertale is a game that came out during the release of the anime in 2021, and was also the first game I've heard about made by G123. So, G123 talks about the games being but I don't see anything about reusing character designs in promotional material, and also using the same character design in the game. The character is used in multiple instances, but most notably during dialogue scenes where that same model is also used. Speaking of models, the game at the start asks you to choose between 3 characters, using these animated GIFs for all 3. But yeah, one of my biggest problems with Spirit Chronicles that I found is the ridiculous looking interface. There are numerous instances where I could back up from the tutorial, and speaking of, when I finished the tutorial, the game just left me, and many G123 games have a bad habit of leaving the player in the dark once the tutorial's finished. When I collected footage for this video, there were numerous instances in a G123 game where they just didn't do anything after that tutorial was finished. You could probably see right now, and this game is no different. Either way, the UI feels like a cheap Flash game, and the character designs, at least the ones in the battle scenes, look honestly weird and a bit funky. And they somehow managed to make the gacha sequence worse than... Plus, as well, the game likes throwing a bunch of crap at my face, including ads for things that can buy in the game, gacha systems, daily lock-in bonuses, and other things. I also should have mentioned this before, but to reiterate, I am not a big fan of the way that they did this. You see, because this game was initially designed for mobile, they never made a PC version of the game that could actually fit a computer screen. So instead, they just cropped the game to fit a mobile window and add a bunch of these characters on the left and right side for the PC version. And they don't even fit the freaking screen. They just have these characters, and there's a black part as on the left and right that's pretty obvious to see. I don't know why the game was made like this, but when I saw the phrase browser, I thought that meant it was designed for that, much like DL Site Play. DL Site Play was designed for both a laptop and a mobile device, with barely any differences between the two when it comes to viewing content. They could have made this game easier to view on a computer screen, but nope, why do that when we can take the mobile interface and port it to the PC version? These are the same hacks that put Bang Dream on a Switch. But that's just G123. What about the game? I hate it. I never really enjoyed MMOs, and on top of all that, this game just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. Not to mention about 80% of the game doesn't even require interaction, as the majority of the game plays itself, which I find ridiculous, but it's not like the other games I mentioned beforehand didn't have similar features. I just feel like there's more interactivity in United Front and Last Bullet than this game. The other 20% of the game consists of browsing menus and picking the next objective, with the next objective also being an auto-only feature. To reiterate myself, yes, I know I played games that also have automatic features, but it's not like you are restricted to them. If you wanted to play Assault Lily by itself, then all you had to do was hit a button, and that same button was initially off by default, so it was the user's choice. Me having to watch my teammates attack for me is the complete opposite, and in defense of the auto button, there are moments in Last Bullet where I struggle and want to get through a tough stage with help, or maybe I would just want to listen to Call of the Wild and I don't care enough to push buttons. And there are successful games that use this feature, like Museum. But with Museum, it makes a little sense as to why the game is automatic. The game is trying to emulate the feeling of watching a horse race, so it makes a little sense as to why horse races aren't user-controlled. But this game isn't about horse races now, is it? There are a few G123 games released in America, and almost all of them are licensed franchises that got half-assed games about them. Spirit Chronicles Another Tale, Peach Boy Riverside Battlesaga, shit name, that recently released Queen's Blade Limit Break, My Isekai Life, Strongest Sage Online, which hasn't came out yet, and a weird one, I'm gonna butcher this hard, but Hyaka Rorian Samurai Girls Passion World, which for some reason Google Docs keeps adding a squiggle over the word Ryorian. There are a few Japan-exclusive games though. Dropkick on My Devil Sticky Wars, a game based off of Peter Grill and the Philosopher's Time. The only new IP I've seen so far, Vivid Army, a game based off of Wixos, an unpronounceable name I can't say properly, a game literally called Girls and Creatures, based off of Creature Girls, which is actually published in America. Kinda weird. And something that looks like a Professor Layton game. What a great lineup, 11 games, and out of all of them, more than half are Japan only. So I'll play through some of them. I'm gonna continue with Peach Boy Riverside Battlesaga because it gives me an excuse to bitch about these titles for the next few minutes. I don't know who came up with the titles for these games at G123, but I do know is the majority of these games are terribly named. Most of the names don't feel creative and they really don't explain anything about the game. Cinderella Girl supposedly is about taking any random person and turning them into an idol. World Witches United Front, despite the repetitive name, is about taking the World Witches and putting them on the front line, united, so to speak. Even the isekai name-length Quintessential Quintuplets mobile game could have the assumption of the overall plot being comparable to a puzzle. Most of the names for mobile spin-offs at least try to connect themselves to their original source material, which is something I'm pretty sure the creators of Battlesaga didn't take into account when coming up with the name for it, as I literally have no idea what it has to do with Peach Boy Riverside at all. But what I also do know is that this game is basically a browser version of Mobile fucking Strike. And it's funny because for apparently one of their bigger games, and it is one of their bigger games because on the Twitter cover they have Salterin on it, it's not all that eventful. It's like that one time I played a 10-0 mobile game by Gamergate, not Bandai Namco, and it was literally just a fucking Clash of Clans ripoff. Like, this was before Isekai Memories came out, keep in mind. It's basically that same feeling. They do the exact same shit with the animated GIFs for the characters, but they don't make expressions for any of them, which ultimately makes them even more lazier than Spirit Chronicles. Chronicles! Also, G123's talent is the constant reuse of almost everything in their games, including the user interface, and the problems that surface because of G123's laziness. The game immediately puts you into the crossfire, not even giving you a chance to breathe before putting you into the action and fighting towers to keep your base alive. What is it with G123 games to start you off when you or your party is at a breaking point and you have to have some sort of ex machina save you? Waiting a bit. Anyway, this beast called Seth talks all big because he's big and bad, get it? Haha, lol. And it kills your army members, which transition us into combat. I said combat. Combat? Do you ever have one of those moments where you feel like someone is telling you not to deal with pain? I feel like life is telling me not to shave a few years off my life by playing this. Fuck! So let's try Queensblade next. I wanted to play Boy Riverside and I guess my phone didn't want to. Oh, I'll come back to it in a bit. Let's play Queensblade Limit Break. Released a few months ago, this game is based off of another one of those fan service anime like Senran Kagura, High School DxD, and Donna, I don't fucking know. So, I was expecting this game to have similar fan service scenes, but what I got instead was actually mediocre, but not bad. Limit Break has its moments, but what works well about the game is that it works, and it's more linear than the other games. It's the idea of picking battles from menus rather than Spirit Chronicles. The character designs aren't too bad, and the animated GIF models aren't as bad nor stiff as other games. But in the adventure mode, I'm not a big fan of watching my characters fight until either I pick a mode or leave the menu. That's gotta be tiring because they couldn't do what Strike Witches did and have the characters just be idle, or just have a menu showing off your characters under the adventure section. They have to be fighting. The tutorials are pretty simplistic and easy to get through, though once again, dropping the player after the tutorial is done won't help them get acquainted with the game. And no, it's not my internet at this time. 46.7 megabytes per second. Yeah, that's funny. Funnily enough, but also frustratingly enough, this gameplay style is essentially replicated quite literally in Dropkick on My Devil's Sticky Wars. Dropkick on My Devil is an endurance test, needless to say. My thoughts on the anime don't matter, at least for now. I think Dropkick on My Devil is a test of my patience and it doesn't deserve 3 seasons. But the show does have an actual mobile game. 2 of them, in fact. Dropkick on My Devil Jinbatsu plays a masterpiece that got shut down. Reasons are still unknown, and it shut down basically 10 days after. The second mobile game is Dropkick on My Devil I'm a Millionaire, a card game that promotes itself as being so easy that beginners can even do it. Yeah, if they could understand Jason. I can't. The last game I know of is Sticky Wars, a game released during the I Don't Know, and it basically is just a Dropkick on My Devil reskin of Queensblade Limit Break. Gameplay-wise, it's the exact same, UI feels almost the exact same. The tutorial and idle gameplay, I just don't see any merits to it. If you played Sticky Wars, you played Limit Break and vice versa. Sticky Wars is not bad, but the fact that they literally took the same gameplay elements and didn't even bother to change up the design. Do you see my problem with G123 games yet? They're just web browser low-quality version of games, which I only feel like are getting attention because of the abundance of fan service. When I say that, I mean Ed Sheeran and Game of Thrones levels of fan service. Just taking something popular or something that's well known and adding it to a completely unrelated game, TV show, or movie. It's more so fan service rather than fan service. None of these games are really based off of a series that I really enjoy. I mean, apart from Boy Riverside, I guess. But why would I play Mobile Strike if I don't like Mobile Strike? If you like these games, that's fine, but I don't see myself playing these G123 games as an online live service. Some of these games are so poorly made that I don't know why you'd play Sticky Wars if you could play Millionaire. Sure, it's a card game and you'd need to download it, but I think mobile fits that game much more. G123 games on a desktop, I feel like I'm playing a bad mobile game in my opinion, on a PC, through a Pixel 1 screen. At least with mobile, it fits your screen, but they don't even do the bare minimum. Again, it's like playing Bang Dream on a fucking Switch, and it has us going backwards. So that was a look into the gacha games I'm currently playing, or I'm used to play. And honestly, they're kinda cool. I like the distinct variants of how good Last Bolt and World Witches United Front are, and I had a ball playing around in Fate Grand Order. There are really good gacha games out there, in my opinion, and of course I haven't played through all of them, nor do I intend to. I mean, if it exists, I could do anything. But what? But here's something that's gonna be pretty cool. What if we took this game, or this show, and put a VR game? That was fucking awful.